Alrighty. Happy Thursday, everybody. Sorry for the rain delay. I think we're ready to get going here. So we got a couple things to talk about tonight. Let me get NetBeans loading while we look at that. We have our secure websites, basic authentication, and really just touching on email, showing you here's a little library, you call a function. That's all there is to it. For us to actually do email, you need an account. Gmail's really good at this sort of thing. You can plug in some Gmail info, but I don't want to put a password out there online, so I'll show you how to do it. It's nice and easy. It actually works out pretty well, but we're going to focus on secure sites. We'll talk about a little bit, but then authentication will be the key here for PHP, and that'll actually wrap up all of the PHP stuff we're doing this semester. So we're officially halfway through now. Spent half the time on PHP, and then we're going to switch gears and look at web programming with Java, MVC, and Tomcat. It's a different web server here, and I'll talk a little bit about JSP. That's Java Server Pages. We'll get to that after, but like the whole web framework, Java servlets and JSP, is kind of what that is. And this is the MVC model for it as well, which is fun. So we skip over a little bit in the JSP book, like the intro to how web programming works. It's the same book from Morocco, so it's essentially the same chapter, right? This is like how the internet works, how web pages work, web servers, that sort of thing. That's not very interesting, but we're going to focus on the Java side, look at the tools we need to install to get the Tomcat server up and running. Depending on which version of Java you install, there's a little bit of tweaking that you have to do. I'm quite partial to the Open JDK, which hopefully you had a chance to use in your 1500 class or 2151 class, which means you don't have to deal with Oracle licensing, which is fantastic. Not that it's a problem for us as students, but just to have to avoid any of that issues is a little bit nice. And then we save some time here. So we should be in pretty good shape there. Don't need any of those. So just an intro to it. We'll have some more time to work on project 3. That was converting our stock program here to work with classes. So the idea is that everything that we interact with is a class. So we pass objects around instead of just these arrays. Right? The database row results were just an array, and we were just passing arrays back and forth, which is, it works, but it's better to do things with classes. It's a little bit more object-oriented approach. That's more of a traditional way that you'll do things. And then having built our own mapping from objects to databases and database to objects, you'll appreciate when we talk about frameworks, how that stuff just happens auto-magically. There's some really cool stuff that is just out of the box. You pointed at it and it works, which is super cool to see that kind of thing. But until you've done it, you don't really appreciate what happens kind of behind the scenes. And then next week, we'll pick up our 4th and last individual project, just a basic project using servlets. So we're going to switch over to the Java side of the house for our last individual project. And then we'll have the midterm. I was planning to have this due before the midterm, and then you'll have the entire week to focus on the midterm. I think I'm leaning towards just not doing a time-bound test. So instead of just saying you have from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. to click submit, just give you the whole time like the quizzes have been. They're just open all week for you to take, open up, go back to, because, honestly, measuring if you could do something fast is not the right thing that we want to assess. We want to know if you can do the right thing, right? And if it takes a little bit more time, that's okay. Right? I'm more in favor of making sure you can actually do the thing rather than can you do the thing fast. So I'm working on eliminating those sort of time requirements, at least, like this 1 4-hour sitting, because that can be intimidating. And then some people get stressed out and they don't perform as well, and just all sorts of issues. So the plan for 11.4 then is the midterm will open. I might even open it early. I'm not like whatever. And then I'd like it in by 6 p.m. on 11/11 so we can go over it. Where the quizzes have typically been giving to 11:59 p.m. that the next week, I'd like it in before class starts. So it'll be like exactly 1 week, open to close. If you want to come in class and take it, great. You can use the computers here. If you want to do it from home, that's fine. It's open book, open notes, open internet. It's my job to write a question that you can't Google the answer to, at least when it comes to like these long answer style questions. If you can find it already on Google, that's my fault. If you go and post the question on Chegg and pay for their expert answer service and someone answers it, then you say, oh, look, the answer was out here online, right? You've done a bad thing, right? That used to be assumed obvious, but based on my experience with people and using Chegg and them saying, oh, no, I cited my source because here was Chegg.com, someone had an answer there. Like, The answer didn't exist until you asked for it. That's the same as working with somebody else. And then I have to fill out all sorts of failure paperwork and report you to the dean, and it's just a big mess, and it upsets me. It upsets my wife because I get in a bad mood, and then she's mad when I'm upset about it, and it's just no fun for anybody. So I will ask you to agree to abide by the policy that it's open book, open notes, open internet, not working with anybody else, and I will trust you will do that. The goal here is that it's not a high stakes assessment. There should be no big time pressure. Like it's a chance for you to show that you can do these things is the goal here. It's worth a decent chunk, but I've tried to minimize it as much as possible, so it's only 15% of your overall score. So even if you don't take it at all, or if you just failed it completely, you can still get a B in the course without doing anything at all. So again, trying to make sure less pressure. There's all sorts of cool research and things they've done and studies that are being published to like having things not be half your grade for one test actually make you guys do better, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? So that's sort of the goal there. And then we'll pick up the final project when we come back from the midterm, and we'll do that all of November and December. So because there's the Thanksgiving break, it's essentially 4 weeks to work on it, right? So you'll have from 11/11 till 12/16 to get it done, and you can just do nothing over Thanksgiving. That's fine. Just go eat your turkey and your pie and be happy. So we'll still have some weeks to work on it. These nights are a little bit lighter as well, so we've got time to work on it in class. I know some folks have been meeting with me during office hours. I'm happy to meet with you folks, walk you through things. The tools get wonky, and a little config change here or there can just make something not work. So I'm happy to help get you pointed in the right direction. Chegg, everything asking to have it unblocked, like it's currently blocked and they want it open. I think that is insanity. Chegg is just awful and terrible. Thankfully they're getting sued, but it's by Pearson, who's also an awful and terrible company because they price gouge us on our textbooks. So hopefully neither of them win and they just spend a bunch of money. So we'll see. I guess the lawyers win in that case, which is still kind of a little sad, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to close our project down. I'm going to open back up our stock project here. And hopefully this works well, that we keep evolving on the same project, iterating on the same project, adding features to it rather than doing new stuff every single time. I kind of like that model, so you see how things change over time, which is fun. So you'll notice when you fire up XAMPP here, XAMPP, there we go, that one, and we start our server. Maybe it'll start for us. Let's see. We got our views, we got our models, life is good. You'll see when you start Apache, it lists 2 port numbers here. Maybe it will. Yep, so 443 and 5080. So 5080 is what I changed it to, right? The default was 80. Great, I had to change it to 5080 because my port 80 is in use. But you also get this port 443. So port 443 is the traditional port for TLS secure communication, or HTTPS communication. That's the secure transport protocol for communicating over websites, which is all sorts of fun here. So you'll notice like our website for D2L here is HTTPS : whatever. And all the things we've been doing so far when we load up our pages are not HTTPS : 5080. Here we go. It's got to warm up. Just I'm getting ready to replace this computer because it has been slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. Maybe Windows 11 will fix it. Just give it a fresh install and redo everything from scratch. I might try that first, but at 2.5 years old with a laptop, they sadly don't work as well. No shot for what, Professor Perp? Oh, yeah, you don't think it's shot? Yeah, I mean, it's still decent. It just, I wish it was faster. That's all. And they've just released the new Surface models. I'm a big Microsoft fanboy. I like Microsoft, and I like their devices, and the fact that I can write on it is fantastic. I would do a desktop, but I can't carry it with me. So, all right. So anyway, this connection here, you don't even see the rest of it here because it's not secure, and we get a little notice. You can look at the site info. It says, hey, your site's not secure. Depending on what browser you like to use, it warns you in different ways. But generally, if you're not on a secure connection, you should never put a password in. Right? That's just a good practice, right? Because it's not being encrypted in transit, and that can cause some bad things. Yeah, Evan says I should just download some more RAM. There we go. That might work, right? So this is not the secure connection. If you want the secure connection, we can do that. So I'm going to back out the 5080 there, and I'll just say HTTPS:// use the secure connection, and I get a big fat warning here. It says, hey, it's not private. Someone might be trying to steal. They like to nicely warn you that this is not working right. Most browsers, again, they all behave slightly differently. There's like, hey, yes, I actually do want to do this, and I understand that it might be a bad thing here. It'll work. So out of the box, our Apache server can handle HTTPS connections, the secure connections here. But if you go and click on it, again, depending on your browser, I'm using Edge. Chrome should be nearly identical because now they're both Chromium based. You can look at some information about it here. It says, hey, it's not secure because the certificate for this site is not valid. So when we do secure communications, it relies on certificates and public and private key cryptography. Got some really smart people. I don't recall their names at the moment. I'm sure we can Google them. But you'll see this is my certificate that says, hey, I'm localhost. But we don't trust this, right? It has not been issued by a root certificate authority, this CA, that we trust. There's a bunch of certificate authorities that we trust by default, right? When you get a new computer, Windows has its own list, Mac has its own list, Linux has its own list of, hey, we trust these people to issue certificates. So if you get your certificate from a trusted person, then you don't get this warning, which is nice. So there's a lot of trust in the system that everyone is doing the right thing here. But it says not secure. We can still continue on, but it's a big pain in the butt. So we're not going to do secure programming and play with it. For our local development, we're only ever connecting to our local server. Nothing is actually going out on the network. So I can put in any passwords I want. It's not going anywhere other than my computer. Depending on when you get in the real world and you start developing and writing web applications, you'll probably have a local development environment that you play with, and you probably have a test environment out somewhere, either in the cloud or some data center somewhere that would go across the network. Then you definitely want to use secure communications. But it all relies on that public and private key cryptography. So if you go, you can open up your certificate information. You can manage your computer certificates in Windows. I don't actually know how you do it in Macland. I'm sure we could Google it. There's a list of certificates here, and we have this lovely tool here, our trusted root certificate authorities. These are people that we trust to issue certificates here, and everyone will get a slightly different list here. We'll say, okay, we trust these ones here. So some common ones, DigiCert is a very common one. Entrust is another very common one. GoDaddy is a relatively common trusted root certificate authority. You get one from Microsoft. Microsoft has a couple in here. Let's see who's around. Symantec. No, that's mobile. VeriSign is another common one. So there's a couple companies that offer certificate services. And there's a whole process to go get a certificate, and then it's issued for a particular domain. So the certificate has to match the domain. So if we go just to like google.com and we click our little info here, you can look at the certificate and you can click the little certificate button. It says, okay, we trust their certificate. It was issued to star.google.com. So anything.google.com can be trusted with this certificate. And said, okay, if you have access to the certificate, we'll trust it. And you can take a look at the path and see, oh, it was issued by eventually up through our global sign root CA, whatever that is. And we trust them apparently. So because we trust the certificate authority, we trust the certificate that was issued, and the domain matches. So another silly thing, if you've done any networking, you'll know these are just domain names with the DNS system. We're translating a name to an IP address out on the internet. So let's see if we can find Google's address here. So if we ping google.com, we get their IP address that we're connecting to, probably somewhere in here is 142.251.32.14. Not sure whether that's showing up on the screen. And we can substitute that in instead of that domain name address. I can just put an IP address in, and now it says, oh wait, it's not private. It's not a trusted certificate here. We'll continue on, says it's not secure. It redirects us anyway, right? Google knows how to do this sort of thing, but if we were to look at the cert, a cert issued for star.google.com does not match an IP address. So certificates piggyback on the domain name system, so you can put names to IP addresses, which is fantastic. And then, so spend a little bit of time here. We got to look up our friends, RSA founders. I forget. They're math profs, essentially. Yeah, Ron Rivest, Adi Shamir, and Leonard Adelman released their algorithm in 1977. Holy cow. We've been using this same cryptography system for years and years and years and years, thanks to these math geniuses. And what happens is there are two pieces to this system. There's a public key and there's a private key. And this is how everything on the internet works, which is super cool. So what happens is there's some mathematical formula, you can go look it up, that takes two really big prime numbers, does some arithmetic with them, and will generate two sets of numbers. One's a public key, one's a private key. Okay? So when you generate you take two big primes, two big prime numbers. And when I say big prime numbers, I mean real big. So let's look at this cert here real quick again. This one, if you look at the details, is a 2048-bit valued prime number, or up to 2048 bits. So 2 to the 2048. I don't even know what that number is. Let's Google that. 2 to the 2048. 616 zeros in that number, right? I have no idea what that is. That's ridiculously large. So 2 prime numbers up to 3 to the 616 zeros, right? That's a lot of prime number possibilities out there. And anybody who does math and math theory and things like that will know there's a lot of them out there. So you pick two. You pick 2 prime numbers, you do some arithmetic with them, and you generate 2 different numbers. You generate a public key and the private key. I already wrote public and private key, sure. What happens then is if you have the public key, you can go through another algorithm that will take your message and encrypt it using the public key. So you take a message and you do a one-way encryption with the public key to you get your ciphertext. The only way to get this back out is by using the private key. You can't even use the public key to decrypt it. It's almost like a hash. So a hash is a one-way encryption. This is an asymmetrical encryption where you use a key to decrypt and a different key to or one key to encrypt and a different key to decrypt. And it works both directions. So you take their public key, which was, this google.com certificate, or bing.com, I'm on Bing now. They give me free coffee. Google does not. You take their public certificate, you send a message encrypted with it, and if they can decrypt it, you can trust that they have access to the private key, if they can read your message. Because only someone with the private key can decrypt a message, this ciphertext, encrypted with the public key. It's asymmetric. Okay? Then they send you back a message, encrypted with the private key. The private key ciphertext. If you can use the public key to decrypt it, you know they have access to the private key. So we get this two-way communication. Okay, here's your public certificate. You're telling everyone you have. I'll encrypt with that. You decrypt with your private key. You send me a message encrypted with the private key. I verify the public key can decrypt it. So we both know now you have access to the private key. It does not mean that this necessarily is bing.com. What it means is that they have access to the bing.com certificate. So it's still trusty. Like, just because a website is HTTPS doesn't mean the person on the other end actually is who they say they are. It just means they have access to the certificate that says who they are. That's an important distinction in security. So using this asymmetric encryption, what you do is you negotiate a symmetric key. So the asymmetric process is inherently slower. not ridiculously slow, but slower to do this public and private key trust communication sort of thing. So when you start a communication with the website over HTTPS, they'll negotiate a session symmetric key. And then every other piece of communication is encrypted with the symmetric key, which means the same key is used to encrypt and decrypt. So the reason we use this public and private key asymmetric encryption is to say, okay, you say you have access to the certificate, we've proved it, because you're able to encrypt and decrypt. Great. Then we can negotiate a symmetric key, which is faster for us to use for our secure communication. That's the whole process. Lots of fun. So you can get certificates and you load them into your web server. Again, take the whole Apache web server administration class if you want to learn how to do that sort of thing, so that when we go to a secure connection and hit our server, we trust it. That's the whole process. Lots of fun there. That's your dose of math for the day. And so like if you look up the RSA algorithm, it's super cool. One of these websites was better here. I forget which one it was. Maybe Wikipedia wasn't bad. I'm trying to remember. One of them was better. Yes, modular explanation of integers. Take some number to a number to a power of, and then modulus it by something else. Sure, it's all sorts of fun stuff. Oh yeah, here's our example. So if we take 61 and 53 as prime numbers, we multiply them together. You do this other thing, which is essentially your prime numbers minus 1 something, and then you get another number. That's our exponent. Then we get the modular multiplication inverse. Sure, this is all nonsense, but that's fun. So you take a number, you follow this formula, you do the opposite, essentially with the private key, using a different set of numbers, and you can get the original number back out asymmetrically. All sorts of fun. And the internet relies on this in that there are so many prime numbers up to that, 660 something zeros there, that no one's going to be able to guess this, right? Because there's just so many primes available. Does it even tell us like how many primes numbers are in 48-bit keys or something? I don't know if that's how many prime numbers are there? Oh, he's got on Stack Overflow. Look at that. Someone so 2.8 to the 10 to the 147. So 147 zeros worth of prime numbers available in that larger range of numbers. And you take 2 of them. And any combination of 2, right, is what we rely on here. So really cool stuff. So I get excited about this sort of nonsense. It's interesting stuff. One time I did this by hand on a whiteboard for class in my undergrad, and I thought it was really fun. I think people fell asleep, though. Sure. All right, anyway, so we are able to connect over a secure connection if we want with their certificate, if you trust their certificate. Awesome. Now, all of that to take us to, once we have a secure communication set up, then we can ask people to log in. Again, we're going to hand wave and say we're not going to do that. We're just going to do it over our local connection because we're only ever doing local stuff. We're not going to feel too bad about it here. So we'll just ask people to log in over an unsecure connection locally because that's how we're going to test it here. So we can give a way for someone to log in. There's a couple ways of doing it. There's a forms-based authentication, there's basic authentication, and then there's a digest authentication. We're going to do the form-based one, where we give them a username and password box, and we submit a form. So one of the cool things that PHP has built in is a way of hashing a password, right? And the idea with a hash is that it's a one-way encryption, okay? All sorts of ugly things happen online, and people do bad things, and One of the most egregious things you can do is to store someone's password in what's called plain text, to store the actual password. Right? You have no business looking at what their actual password is. So what we do instead is we do some fancy math. We take some sort of hashing algorithm and say, okay, if your password is the word password, we feed it through a one-way hash, and it comes out to like just a bunch of numbers and letters, whatever. But every time you take the same password and you feed it through the hash, you'll get the same result. So it's not encryption, because encryption has to be able to be decrypted. It's a one-way process. So we'll take the password and we'll run it through an algorithm that scrambles it, so we have no idea what the password is. Now, what that does mean is if you have all sorts of time on your hand, you can take every single possible combination of letters and numbers, start hashing them using that same hash. Eventually, you'll get one that matches the hash. Right? If you just, every single possibility, for every combination of letters and numbers and anything here, up to, whatever, like 8 characters or something, we'll find a hash for every one of those possibilities. That's why longer passwords are better. They're harder to break. The complexity between letters and numbers and capital and special characters is just bullcrap. It actually doesn't really help at all, because 90% of them use your number as your last character. Right? That's been proven. Like, we've got password dumps because people are stupid, and we've exposed passwords, and they look at them, and 90% of them, if you need to require, probably even more than 90%, I forget what the figure was, they just throw a number on at the end, or they throw the capital letter as the first letter. Right? You're not actually adding that many possibilities here for most people.
You're calling me out right now.
I do it too. And when your password expires, you just change the number from a 1 to a 2, or a 2 to a 3, or a 3 to a 4. Right? Yeah, that's
21 characters.
Yeah, 21. You should be pretty good here. So thankfully, we've got some smart folks out there, and there's some recent guidance on passwords that say stop making people change them so often. Stop worrying about all these complexity requirements. Make them pick something long. That's the safest password you can have, is a long password. And a nice way of remembering it is doing some sort of phrase. Right? If you just stick a bunch of words together, that's a relatively secure password, because it's long. Again, it's going to be hard to crack. If you ever press the forgot password button and they send you a password instead of a reset link, yes, they are probably storing your password in some sort of text. You should never send someone a password over email. That is horrible and awful and makes me want to cry. Super bad practice. Like, hey, my forgot password link gives you your password back. Oh, jeez. No. Like, you can generate a link and go through a reset process, and there's all sorts of good things here. But it's the Nist password guidelines. Was it 2020? I don't know, that's what came up. So Nist is our National Institute of Science and Technology or something like that. Nist. Let's see what that comes up with. National Institute of Standards and Technology. Standards and Technology. So they have some guidelines to, like, what actually makes good passwords. Those sorts of things. Length is better than complexity, right? Eliminate the resets. The more often someone resets it, the more likely they are to write it down. Okay? You want to be able to see what you're typing, right, which is nice. You should let them paste in a password. Password managers are something like they'll just generate a bunch of nonsense for you, and you remember your password for your password manager, and you store all the passwords in that. Right? They're actually generally well accepted now in the industry. It's a good habit, because that way you don't even have to deal with other things. And another good password habit is to not reuse your password, because if it gets found on one site, they're going to try it everywhere else that they know you exist. And if you reuse your password like some people do, then they now have access to more things than they probably should have, just because they found out what your password on, I don't know, some stupid site is. Like, if they crack my Crunchyroll password, I probably don't want to reuse that other places, right? So that sort of idea here. Yep. Don't use hints. Yeah, hints are silly. Limit the attempts. Multi-factor authentication is huge. Not just a password. They make apps on phones now that are super easy to do multi-factor authentication. They used to have to buy a really expensive dongle thing that would, like, spit numbers out all the time at you. Those are we don't need them anymore. We have phone apps. SMS, or text message, as a second factor is actually not great, because it's relatively easy, and I guess relative's a funny word here. in that someone can buy some relatively cheap hardware and get a text message to your number. Now it's illegal and they shouldn't be doing it, but if they really want to like break into your identity and that sort of thing, they can send some message out to the phone carrier and say, oh, by the way, my phone's over here. Please send me my text messages. And they'll get your two-factor text message authentication. So not great for texting. Not super secure. I mean, better than nothing, for sure, and it will dissuade most attacks. But anybody who's like serious and really wants to go after you here, they're going to be able to get your text messages. Securing your databases, hashing passwords here, for sure. Don't store clear text passwords. This Bcrypt is what we're actually going to use in PHP, which is cool. Yep. So that's another fun thing here about passwords. All right. So. Yep. Oh yeah, with Troy Hunt. That guy is fantastic. Have I been pwned.com? Is it WND? I think that's probably it. You can put in your email address and it's going to show you if you show up in any sort of data breach ever, which is fantastic. You can actually get notified if you register with this site. I believe he's partnered with Microsoft now for this. It used to just be his own thing, but he's like somehow connected with them. I forget the whole story here. But anytime there's a big breach, he dumps the info into his database, and you can search and find out whether or not you've been screwed up. So it's good to know here. Let's see. Is my college email address on this list? Let's see what happened. One data breach. What data breach was it? Verifications.io. This is just email addresses with no additional info. So not anything super concerning here. Looks like it might have had some info, but verifications, I don't know if I've ever used them or not, but they had my email address at some point, sure. Why not? Yeah, oh yeah, he's got so much data. Yep. Yeah, when was it LiveJournal got hacked or something? Yeah, he's got all sorts of data. So, and we're getting a little off into the security land of things, but this is definitely things developers need to be aware of and understand good security practices. So in PHP, let's add a login page. Let's let a user log in here, and we'll go from there. So how about on our index page, maybe, that we don't really have anything, maybe we'll add our login form. Here, if we can do that, right? And ask them to log in. So I'm going to go steal a form, because honestly, I don't like building anything out by hand here if I can help it. So sure, we'll just take a form, copy paste that into our index here, and we'll ask them to log in. Log in or create account. How about that? Because we need to actually make some accounts first. So we should send this to, how about a login.php controller? We don't need a select here. We need a username field. We'll call it username. Maybe we'll do two forms. We'll do a login form. We'll do a create account form. Or we could use radio buttons. We got all sorts of options here. But we'll start with login. We'll do that. And then password here. There's a type here of password field instead of a text field. A text field by default will show you what you're typing, which is normally what we want. We want to see the things you're typing. A password field is going to hide the characters so that if someone is watching your computer and you go to log in, they can't see your password. Right? That's just good practice. Now, we do want to be able to let them see it if they want to, though. This will be login for our action. We'll call this login here. And then I'm going to essentially copy paste this form here for create account. Create account. Username, password. This is create account for our action. We'll call it create account. Sure. Okay, so on our main index page, now we should have two forms to log in and create an account. Again, we don't have a login controller yet. We don't have anything there. We'll get to that in a second. But now we can log in. Okay? And they don't actually take us anywhere. But that's fine. So we can do that. And then the password field, right? We get all that. Can't see it here at all. It's hidden. Nope. Don't show my saved logins, please. I thought there was maybe Firefox doesn't do it. Is it just in Chrome now? Yes, so Chrome-based browsers now, this little like eye you can click on, and it will reveal the text in the password box, right? So that they have the option, if they want to confirm they typed in the right password here, they can look at it that way, right, which is nice. So this is a form-based login, right? Just gives them a form that they can log in. And bad news over HTTP, because you're sending your password in plain, clear text over the network to wherever this thing goes. And remember how networks work is people just send your message along till it gets there, right? It goes through all these different steps on the network along the way, and anybody who has access to any of the devices along that route can snoop on the traffic, right? And all sorts of other nonsense that you can like attack network devices and get all the traffic going through it anyway, even if you don't have access to the device, depending on what device it is. And it's all sorts of fun network level attacks people can do. I don't know if people are just bored, have too much time on their hands, or they just like breaking things, but we just can't have nice things without people breaking them, which is unfortunate. So we got our form for logging in. So now we need to go make our login controller. So we'll go add a controller. Here, we'll go add a login.php. And we got to do a couple things. So we're kind of modeling off of our other controller here. Now, there's no gets here at all. Like, get's not a thing when you log in, because you don't want to send the password in the URL, right? Hopefully that just obviously seems like a bad idea, right? If the password was in the URL, even over a secure connection. Now, if someone has the URL or like looks at your browser history, hey, here's the username and password in the URL, bad. Okay, so post is what we have to use for this one here. So we don't even take get requests at all. We don't care. Nope. Don't change that one. Sorry, I meant to copy paste. Let me grab all of that, come over to login here, paste it into login. There we go. So we don't need most of this right now. We can get rid of almost everything. We'll look at here. How about that? So we need an action. Sure, again, we don't need to get anything off of get. And if there is no action, then right, we should probably not do anything. They have to specifically tell me log in or create account. So if the action is empty, let's just header them back to, oh my goodness. Header, yeah, quote, there we go. Location. Header them back to index.php. Okay, just send them back. So if you don't give me an action, I'm just going to send you right back here. Then we can have an action here. And we can actually look to see, hey, if you wanted to log in. Let's actually go with create account first, because until we have accounts, like logging in is not going to be helpful because I can't see who you are in the database. Okay, so to work with this, then we need a table in the database that has their username and not their password, but their hashed password. Okay, so we're going to come over to our PHP myadmin. Here we go. We're going to add another table. Now, two options, depending on which way you want to go. We already have a table for user, or person, right? That has that person data. We could add a username and a password field to this table if we wanted, which would be pretty nice and easy because then that username and password would be associated with that person, rather than making a user table with a username and password, and then we'd have to have some sort of linking between, okay, this username, which person do you belong to? Whose account do you get to manage? We'd have to do some sort of link, some sort of reference. Either way works. Totally up to however you want to do it here. So I'm kind of partial to just putting it in person. It might cause a little bit of trouble now because we just don't have usernames and passwords. So ideally we would have done this first. So I think adding a user table is easier to add on after the fact. If we would have done this way back at the beginning, it would have been a lot easier, made a lot of sense, but now I'd have to deal with cases where a person doesn't have a user assigned, right? Where generally that wouldn't be a thing, right? If you're going to sign up for my stock trading website, I'm going to create your account when you create a user, right? They should be linked, but because they're not linked for us, I don't want to go down that road. So I'm going to do a new table here. And either way is okay. And maybe this might make sense. Like if you wanted to have two different logins to manage the same account, like if you had a custodian account for a minor child who can't manage their own account and both parents wanted to log in and they wanted separate usernames and passwords, then we could both associate them with the same account. Maybe that could work. So, and probably not the worst thing in the world, but that's okay. So we'll have our ID field as our integer. And it's been a while since we built the table. We want that to be the primary key. Yep, sure. Okay, and we want it to auto increment. right? Just let it generate IDs here for us. Or we could go the route of having the username itself be the primary key, because you probably shouldn't have two people with the same username, right? So maybe that makes more sense here, right? For this particular table, I don't need to generate numbers for you because you're going to give me a username. Two people aren't going to have the same username, so let's forget that. Let's put this back. Let's not do this thing then. We'll undo that, and we'll say this is a variable number of characters, probably, I don't know, like 50 characters or something, and this will be username. Okay. Then we're going to have a password field, variable number of characters. Now, what do we use? We use Bcrypt, so it generates a hash that is 60 characters long. That's the built-in PHP function for hashing something. It's called Bcrypt. That's the one that referenced by the one article. There's 60 characters. Sure, we're probably safe with 60. We should be pretty good with 60 characters. If you want to go larger, that's perfectly fine. Again, it might be slightly less efficient, and for our scale, we don't care. If you're actually doing this for millions of people, those like couple extra bytes of storage, yes, those will add up. But for now, we have the benefit of we can be a little bit lazy here with ours. But we'll try 60, and we'll see how well that works for us. So we got username, we got password. Right, that's all we really need. Or then we needed a person, right? So then we're going to have a person ID. Which person do we relate to? Right? We could do that. So that'll be a foreign key to the person table. Oh, this is still kind of a mess here because we have to associate who you are. All right, this is getting ugly too, isn't it? Maybe we just add that to person. I don't know, both ways, neither way is great here because we still have to like look up who you are. We need more information than your username and password. We probably need to, you know, ideally look them up by something unique in person that's not first name, last name. We're kind of spoiled because, you know, we're just kind of testing something here, but you'd have some sort of other unique identifier for that person to look them up. I don't know. Yeah, okay. We'll just edit the person table. I'm changing my mind here. I'm sorry. It's a little easier. We'll go to our structure. We'll add a username and a password field. So let's add two columns. Nope, not 21. Oh, goodness. That was wrong. We want username as a varchar, probably 50, and then a password as a varchar. 60 ought to do it here for us. Okay, save that. Oh, the commit is not nulls. Is that right? That doesn't seem correct. Okay, so it just gave them blanks, so they're not nulls. So we just defaulted to blanks. That's okay. So let's do this. So let me go and add in my username here, because I need to cheat a little bit here. Let's do Eric for a username. So I still need to get what the password is. This is a mess to do after the fact. I'm sorry. Trying to bolt it on is not fun. So to create an account, we need to get the username, and we need to get the password. Now we're not going to display the password anywhere, so I don't think we need to bother with the special characters filtering, because if they put special characters in, we don't want to go change them. I mean, I guess as long as we're consistent, it'll be okay to change it, but we're not going to display this anywhere, so it should be okay. We'll call this username and password. This will be password. So to get the hashed password, we want to go and store it here. So we're going to have a hash is going to be a method called password hash given password. And then you can give it an option here. So for us, we're going to use the password default here, which will be our default password. If this ever changes in PHP land, it might cause some trouble. If you wanted like to specify you always want specifically just the Bcrypt algorithm here, it'll always use this one, and then later on we can have some sort of migration strategy if PHP changes the default. So it's probably better to be specific. So here's the hash. Okay. So then to make an account, then we need to go and add this info to person. So maybe, let's take all this person stuff here. Our person view had the add person, right? So let's get their first name, last name values here. we can add that in. So we'll just make new rows here in the table. Let's do it that way. Where's our index view? So to create an account, then you also need to give me the rest of the information. So you give me your username, you give me your first name, you give me your last name. Take all that. Go to our person controller. I don't have to type that again. I want to cheat. First name, last name. Get those values out. Okay, so we get a username, we get a last name, we get a first name. We get our password. We hash the password so that we are not storing the clear text password, right? Then we can go and check it. So we want to go add them to the users table. So it's probably actually going to be our person model then. Right? Need some additional information. If we're also going to have username and password, we can add a private username and a private, I'm going to call it password hash just to like remember myself that it's not the actual password, it's the hashed value. We never want to be dealing with the original password if we can help it, just always the hash. And then for now, I guess we can just default them, right? Say it's empty and password hash is empty until we know otherwise. Right? And then we'll take our this username is the username and our this password hash is the password hash. Okay, we'll take all those values here. Great. Then to go make a new person, let's see, where's our insert person? Update person, delete person, add person. We're going to also add, right, the username and the password. Given a username and a password. Hash. Again, maybe we'll call it hash. Username, password, hash. We'll just be consistent. So we have to go bind some more values. Then statement, bind value, the username with the person. Oh, we don't have a get yet. I got to add those get methods. Come back here. There's a set ID. Let's go insert code, insert our getter for first name, last name, username, password, hash. Okay, so now we can get, oh, we changed those get first and last. That's right. So we don't just need username and password hash. Get password hash, get username. There we go. So now we have get methods for it. We can come back and add them in here. So get username, name. I will bind that one, and then my statement, bind value, password hash, bind that one with the person get password hash. Come on, person get. Why is it not giving it to me now? Come on. Person get password hash. I think that was all lowercase, right? I don't know why I wasn't doing the type ahead. And get password hash. Okay, cool. Get that password hash back out. That's a function call. And we'll insert that. Okay, so we can still do that same add person function then, right, on our create account. Okay, pass all that information, create the account, so it'll make a new person here. So our login controller. Then we need to include our models person. Yep, models person. Models person. And then we will create insert use, add user, add person. Add person. We need to create a person object given all of these things, right? So we need to make a person object equals a new person given, and then our person constructor. Right, once all these values. Is it not like that? Password hash seems to be unused. Did I do it wrong? Oh my goodness, not a this password hash. That password hash. I did have it wrong in the constructor. There we go. All right, so come back to our controller, make the person given the first name, the last name, balance is 0, right? ID we don't care about, we'll just leave it at 0. We give them the username, and we give them the password hash. Password hash. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's just password. This one we already called a hash here. We'll call it password hash. Given the password hash. So we'll make the person, and then we'll add the person to the database. Why is it not like add person? Is it not add person? Did we call it add person? Person object. Yeah, add person. Where's the function add person? All right, I think it's just upset. It will probably be fine here in a second. All right, that ends the create account. Let's see if it works for us here. Oh, not. Okay, so if we want to create an account, let's pick a username. So let's make another one here. How about test, test, test? And I'm going to put in test for the password. We'll create the account. Doesn't know what add person is. All right, friends. We're doing something wrong here. Add person, update person. It says add person, included the model. Included the model. All right, did I copy paste something wrong? Did I spell it wrong? Add person. Add person, that looks the same. Why do you not know what you are? Oh, I don't have a semicolon over here. I need some more coffee. Okay, if I put the semicolon here, it knows what an add person is now. There we go. Right, we should be able to add the person, and then we're going to... Yeah, oh, I need a coffee command. There we go, Professor Burp. Definitely need a coffee command. So we can add the person, and then what do we want to do? We want to send them back to our page, right? And then say, okay, account created, now you can log in. Right, so maybe we give them some sort of message here, or we send them back to the login page. We can do that. So we'll have this is our login control. We want to send them back to the index page then, right? I guess. It's kind of ugly, isn't it? Yes, that's fine. Maybe just include a message. I don't know. Account created. And just echo account created. And then we can include the index page. That's ugly, but I think that'll get the job done. I don't know, maybe we send them somewhere else. Maybe like, we could have a page, I guess. Okay, so we'll make an account. We'll do test, 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 and test. Create an account. Back here, there's no message though. Let's see what happened to the database. We screwed up. Where's our PHP myadmin? Oh, this one here. So here's person. We'll take a look at the person table. Hey, thanks for adding the coffee command, Professor Burp. It's awesome. We don't have test. Something didn't get added. Was our action wrong? Was our action create account? Let's see, our index page. Create account. Yep, post to login PHP. Creates the account. Should be doing it. Test, 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 test. Create the account. Did not send us to... It did send login PHP. Should have taken us to the login page. All right, so something's not happening. Oh, we never got the action out. My friends, we never did anything here. So we have, if the action was nothing, we take them back, and action is nothing because we never got it out. Here we go. We got to get it out of the get, or the post. Here's our action. Deleted too many things. Okay, so if you don't give me an action, I'll just header you back. If you do give me an action, we'll see if we can create the account. Getting closer here. Test, 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 and test. Create the account. Ooh, column not found. Password hash. Did I not call it password hash? What did I call it in person? I just called it password. Let's change that. We got to fix that. I thought I called it password hash. We'll rename it here. No big deal. Password hash. What? Network. Okay. I don't know. Timed out for a second, but now we're good. We got it back. Let's try it again. Let's go back to page. Go back to test. Create the account. Account created. Hey, we got our lovely little message here. So now we should be able to log in. Right now, if we look at the database, we should see. We browse it here. This is the password hash. Right? That definitely does not look like test, which is good. Oh, we didn't get a username. Here's our username. Well, that's not right. Username is username. Did that come through right? Let's see. Username should have come through right. Username. We created a person object. We give them a username. Right, and a password hash. Username. We gave it one. Found it here. Let's see. Did we do something wrong in our add person? Add person. Username. That match? Username. Username. Like it should. Why didn't it give us a username? Let's try it. Let's go back to debug mode then. So we'll go to our login controller, the breakpoint in here. Breakpoint. Give me a breakpoint, please. Give me the breakpoint. Oh goodness, it's gonna be one of those days. Toggle line breakpoint. Nothing. Why won't you give me a breakpoint? Over to the person model. We do it in here. Update, delete, add person. I can put a breakpoint here. That's super weird. Let's try it. So let's add a person. So I'm going to go delete. Oh, it's fine if they're already in there already. So let's continue on. Let's do test again. Test. Create the account. All right, here we go. So we got to our add person, given a person object. So this person object has nothing for username. Well, we did something wrong then. So why is it not getting that? Stop. Let's go back to see if I can put that breakpoint back in the controller. Login controller. Getting the username. There. Okay, now I can put a breakpoint in. Why would that not? Oh, this was off of input get is why. There was no get input there. That was a bad copy paste. Oh, same for password. How did that even work? We must have been encrypting nothing, I think is what was happening there. Was it, if you can encrypt an empty string, it'll still encrypt. All right, let's give that a run. Test. Create the account. All right, account created. Come back to database. So we got here. Test. There we go. And yep, okay, the hash is different, right? So it starts with the same couple characters, and then it has different ones here. It's a good sign. Now we got our username. We got our password. Let's delete these ones here. We don't need those users. Okay, deleted that one. Delete the other one. Okay, now we've got test. Okay, now when we go to log in, our next step here, so that was our login. So if action equals login, we need to go do something. So our person model needs an update, right? When we go and find all of our values here, delete was fine, update person. We could add in the username and password here. Sure, we could go add those in. Yeah, why not? So username equals username. password hash equals password hash. Right. Oh, these all need commas here too, right? Comma, comma. Okay, that one's good. Where the ID matches the ID, go bind those. I'm just going to steal those two binds here, username and password. Okay, if you pass me a person object, we'll go update their username and password too. Find person is going to get everything here. So our convert from DB to object needs an update here then. So my person row, oh wait, we do balance, we do ID, then we do username, person row, username, and our person row of password hash here. We'll get the hash back out each time. We can return them. Right, when we get our users, now we need to go find that particular user. So we need a way to find one user here. We have list by name. We have find person by ID. Let's do the same thing here, but let's find by username. Make a find person, how about by username? Given a username, where username equals the username. And we'll bind username to the username. Okay, we'll go find that person. Great. So now in our login controller, we can go get the person object out, or we need to go get the username first, right? Make sure that they gave me a username and a password box. And we could do our sanity checking, send them to the error page. We should probably do that. Be good about it here. If there was nothing here given the error, let's do that. On login. Right, so get all those values out. And then if the username is empty, equals empty, or the first name is empty, or the last name is empty, or the password is empty. Let's include username, first name, last name, and password to create an account. Include the error view. Otherwise, we'll go do the thing, go add them here. Great, life is good. All right, same thing here with this. We need to do a quick little validation. Make sure username and password are good. Let's include username and password to log in. The error. Otherwise, we'll go do the thing. Okay, so now we can go look up their user. So we can have the user is going to be we need the model here, right? Include our person model. And the user is going to be find person by username, given the username. Now to check if a password matches, we get a Boolean here. We get a, is valid password. You can use a function called password verify. Password verify. Password verify, you give it two things. You give it the password, and then you give it the hash, and it checks if it matches for you. So you don't need to like rehash it yourself here. So we can give it the password. Then we can give it the user's password hash. Get password hash. And it will check to see, hey, do these match? And then if that's true, is valid password, then we can say something, right? Otherwise, else we'll probably include an error, right? Just to do the error page maybe or something. This the error, and error is invalid password. Include the error view. If it was good, right, we got to go do something else here in a minute. We'll get there. Is that all right so far? So let's try that. So we'll just echo out password is valid. Sure, that's how I leave it. That's fine. So it's going to verify it. So still using the password, it will check it against the hash to see if it's any good. So we got to go get the person out of the database and get the results and see. So let's run that one and see now if we can do the login here for test and test. Uh-oh, let's include username and password to log in. Did we do the wrong thing? Username and password off of the posts. Username and password off of posts. Oops, I have last name. The bad copy paste. Password. There we go. So action is login, right? That should be better now. Now we'll try our login, test and test. Uh-oh, invalid password was our error. Did not like it. Test. Invalid password, still invalid. Let's, okay. Let's see what's going on here. Take a look at our login controller. Let's, if it says it's invalid, let's echo output. Let's do user get password hash. Let's say expected hash. Right, and we get password hash. We can echo out line break. Oops. Oh, the password verify. Do we need to tell it which one it was? Password verify. We give it that other message here. Password verify. Yeah, why is that not? That's all right. And then we'll hash that one again. So we'll do our password hash. See if it matches here. Go actual hash. Password hash. Doing some fun debugging here. Test and test. Right, invalid. Those don't match at all. Not even close. Can we do test? Right, was our username test? All right, let's try our database go. Let's delete test one more time. We'll make one more new test user. Try that one more time. All right, so close all these ones. That's fine. Relaunch. Make an account. Test, 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 and test. Create the account. Oh dear, our validation's bad. What did we do wrong here? In our controller. Username, first name, last name, password. Post first name, post last name. That first name and last name? First name. My goodness, the password field is off again. Friends. All right. That's why it was hashing nothing again. That was awful. 2 typos in a row for password. Okay. See, this is why the validation was good. Refresh. I'll just go back. Refresh, test, create the account created, login, test, and test. Password is valid. Okay, so if you actually take the right password field with your right forms here, life is good. And we can get rid of this nonsense. This was ugly here. Feel bad about that. So checking those in debug mode is hard, right? Especially like trying to compare them. So sometimes it's easier to just throw those out where you can see them. All right, so we got passwords. So we can make those, we can log in now. Now, what do we want to do once we're logged in? Well, we should probably store that the user is logged in, right? And have some sort of information here. So something that you can do is you can have session information, which says as long as this particular connection is alive, I'm going to attach some information to the session, which is super cool. So we can say, okay, we're going to mark that you have logged in here. So to use sessions, you have to call a method called session start, which is pretty cool. So we'll do, where do we get logged in here? So if it's all valid, then we'll call session start. This is going to set up all the things behind the scenes for us so that we can have a session and we can start loading data into the session here. Now to add session data, it's $_session. Now session essentially is just an array. We can start adding values to this array, or really an associative array, right? That key and value lookup. So we can add a value here for username. And we'll say, okay, the username is the username. once we've logged in, we'll set the username for our page here. Okay? We're going to be set. So now the rest of the time, that username is going to follow us along off of this set here. So we also need, a good practice is to have a logout button here. So I'm actually going to do that in top nav here. We're going to add a href to login. So we'll do login.php. That's fine. And we'll just call it logout. Logout. /a. And, actually, we'll just take them we'll add a logout parameter here. Oh, that's ugly. That's fine. So we'll just send them to login, to log out, and then we're going to change our default here then. If there is no action, we're going to log them out, and then we'll header them back to index. So when you log out, to get rid of your session, you do two things. You take your session variable, this value here, and you just set it to a new array that is going to remove everything that we've set in that session for us already. Then you call session destroy, which will kill the session. Okay, and then we'll header them back to index. So that will log them out here and get rid of that value from there. So login will set their session. We'll give them a username. Life is good so far. And then what we can do is we can see if someone has been logged in or not. So on our pages, if we want you to be logged in, like to go and to manage transactions or something, or like if a particular user was going to go buy and sell stock here, or if they were going to go manage, like maybe we'd have like a different admin level user. We'd say some users, we could have an admin, they could go in and add stock and add other users, or just regular users would only have access to their own account, that sort of thing. You can check to see different values in here once we have the session. So we're going to say if you don't have a username, then we want to send you back to the login page, to our index page. So all of these other controllers then, not login, but the people controller, we're going to check and see if you have a particular value here. So we can look and probably the easy way is to add a little bit of code here. So we can say, I want to redirect you. We can put it in each one of these. That's probably okay here. Putting it in its own page is probably easy too, and then like including it, but this isn't too bad. So you can check if, and then there's a value. Remember, you can say if is set. We'll check if there's a value in an array here. So if is set on the session, the username. So if there's not a username set here, right? Then we want to go, we're just going to header you back to location. We'll send you back to the index page. Right? That's the login page. So this is going to check, hey, if you have not logged in, if there is no username in that session, you're not allowed on this page. You can't go to manage people. You can't go to anything else. So we're going to pop this in each of these here. Stock and transaction. Right? So when we go ahead and run this now, if I try and go to manage stocks, it's going to bounce. Oh, it didn't bounce me back. Manage people. Oh, I am logged in. That's right. Let me grab this. Another browser here will be a different session. Nope. Log out. Manage people. It's not working. That's all right. 1 second. So what if it's not set? Session username. Session username. It's not set. Bounce the back. Isn't that what we're doing? That's what we're doing. And this does set it. Let's check in here so we can display this. Add a little PHP block. If is set in the session. Oh, okay. So when you're using the session, right, to get values out of the session, you have to use that start session. I did this last time. I did this too. So you need to call session start if you want to get at session values. If you don't call session start in the page, you can't get this, and just nothing works with that. So here we go. Go back to our transaction. Go back to our stock page. Go back to our people controller page. There we go. Okay. Formats, transaction. There. Now one more time. Manage transactions, manage stocks, manage people, log out. Now can I do it? Still going. Well, that's not right. Starting the session. It's not set. Bounce me back. Will it bounce me back? Better? All right, let's try this one more time here. One more time. I'm going to put a breakpoint in our login controller. We didn't start the session. You know, let's just do that at the top. Start the session here. We have the session. See if logout actually works for us now. Logout. Manage. Nope, nothing. All right, let's put a breakpoint in here. See what's going wrong. So let's go to... where's one of these here? Transaction, here we go. Run that in debug mode. Take a look at manage transactions. Here we go. We're gonna start the session. Header. Wait, what? Did I header wrong? Header should have stopped it. So it's still doing the rest of the page here. Why is it? Oh, I want index.php. Putting it in the wrong location. Header you back to the index. Header you back to the index. Log out. Still working. I must be confused here, folks. I'm sorry. It's didn't that just bop them? That should be like a full redirect, right? Back in debug mode. Manage transaction. Step. Step. So the super globals has this session in it here. So it's empty right now. So it's not set. So it should header us. There's a colon after location. Location colon. Colon dot. I thought dot would work. Get this here. Header. Header. Transaction. One more try. All right, now we're getting bounced back. Finally, goodness. All right, so if you do the header with the right commands there with the colon, nothing works, right? We're not getting any message. It'd probably be nice to give them some sort of message here. Like, hey, you have to be logged in to do that. So we could do that with our little message. It depends, I don't know, maybe, or send them back to a page. Yeah. Why not? That's fine. So now when we do log in, though, go back and log in here. Let's test and test. Oh, that's the wrong page. Test and test. We log in. Oh, nothing on the login page. That's right. Login needs a... Like, if that all works, then right, we just we added the person, created the account. We didn't even create the account. We set it here, and then we should send them back, maybe. How about we header them back to location dot. We'll still bounce them back if that worked. And then we're logged in. Okay, so now we're logged in, it's working here. We're able to get that username out. If I log out here and I clear that session, there's nothing. It's not working for us. Log back in. I'm logged in. Again, we should probably give them some messages. So we could even do that now in the top nav. We can check to see if they're logged in, right? So our PHP block, start the session, or session start. Session starts. And then we can see if they're logged in, right? Let's do, what are we doing that over here? If that's set for the username, top nav. So if it is set for username, then we can add a little message here, right? Our add the ahref roles login.php. No, welcome, and then get that username out. Goodness. Echo welcome, the username, and then I'll click to log out or something. Click log out. If it's not set, so if it is set, we say that. If it's not set, then instead of a logout button, how we make this be the login page. We echo that. Okay, so we're going to check to see on our top nav page, if they're logged in, we'll tell them, all right, welcome user, right? Click to log out, or the top nav will say log in. Oh crap, I forgot to end the link there, /a. There we go, /a. There we go. Let's try that one more time. All right, so now, right, I can click to log in. Right, sure, I mean, it takes me to the same page here. Maybe we have a separate login page then. We could make this separate than the welcome. We'll go test and test. And now it's welcome test. Click to log out. Right, and this will follow us along to say, hey, we're logged in. Oops, session start ignoring it. That's right, if we've already done the session, we don't need to start it everywhere else. So we can get rid of that in the rest of our pages, which is nice. Because if our top nav is doing it, it's already there. Transaction. And people, is that it? Too many times? Manage, log out, test and test. Oh, no, it's we're including the top nav later, so we got to put these back. We need to start them here. It's in the top nav, we don't need to start it if it's already there. So we can check to see if it's there. There we go. How are we doing this? Session start, yep. That's in our top nav. So this we're not going to need every time. What is wrong with this one? Why do we do this? Yeah, start our session. Why is it doing it more than once? That's okay. We'll come back to that then. Log out, log in, test and test. All right, manage. Yep, okay, so that's in our top nav. We're already logged in. Uh-oh, I think it logged us out somehow. It got ugly. People click to log out. All right, I'll fix it up in a minute. But oh goodness, it's already 7:37. I was having too much fun. Sorry, folks. So let's take a break. We'll take 10 minutes. That's about all we need for sessions, right? We can manage that information, keep it in here. So when we enable logins for things, we can actually go and... Is that me making crazy noise? Is that you? Is that me? I don't know where that noise was coming from. That's super weird. Sorry. That was funky. So let's take a couple minutes. We'll come back and move over to JSP. Put on some music, put on a break screen. We'll come back in a little while. So you gotta holler at me if I go too long. We should have taken a break a while ago. That puts us at 48 here. Alrighty. I think we're ready for a little more fun. So, two things I found real fast. I did a quick Google, and you can check if your session's even set at all, start it. Or if it's not set at all, go ahead and start it. That way our top nav doesn't give us that second warning error there. Just works a little prettier now. And yeah, we can go log in, test and test. And we don't get any errors on our pages here. And then the other thing we might want to do is we could even hide the rest of these, right? We could only give them those links if the session's set, right? We could, oh goodness, we don't want to do all that in echoes, do we? Let's just end the PHP block. And then we'll start the PHP block back up again here. Right, so we only give them the links if they're logged in. Right, so if we log out, all we get is home and login. We could probably move login to another page here, so it's like, because it doesn't really take us anywhere without that, but test and test. And then once we're logged in, now we get all my links. Right, you can just kind of manage that in the top nav. Not right now. We're going to do cookies over in the Java side. The Java side of the house here to do cookies. I don't think we get any session. So it manages some session information here. There's like, it's knowing what session we're in. But nothing right now that we need to manage for. So there's a whole chapter on it. Because we do it on the Java side, I don't want to do it twice in PHP and in Java. So if you want to set a cookie, that's like a tracking bit of information here. All right, so I think we're pretty good. I'm actually going to stop Apache now. Now, we can come back to MySQL. We'll work on the database side in Java land later, but for Tomcat. So Tomcat is the Java server that runs. So right off the bat, it's probably going to fail, for me at least on a fresh install, because I don't have an official JDK installed. I only have the open JDK. Let's see. I think it's failing. Probably going to get an error message here. Yeah, attempting to start. There we go. This one will take a little bit of tweaking here. Oh, there it goes. Here's it's trying to run this Catalina start script here. This is what starts up your Tomcat server. And it's probably going to fail in a second. So I think a little harder. Close that one down. We can close down our certificates. Close down that one. There we go. And I'm actually going to close the whole project now too. Close this project. I should commit that to GitHub while that thinks. All right, so it failed. Yep. Make sure you have Java, JDK, or JRE installed, and the required ports are free. So it can't detect the open JDK, which is unfortunate. So we can go in and tweak it a little bit here. We go commit this. This is with login now. So again, any user was working here. We didn't actually check and make sure only they could do their own transactions. That'd be another step. But for now, it's fine. All right, so that was running the Catalina start. So I'm going to go to config, and I'm just going to browse here. And actually, I don't even need the config directory. I'm going to go up this XAMPP to Catalina start. See, the Catalina start is what runs to start your Tomcat server when you click start over here. I'm going to right-click and edit this file. And then I also need to know where my OpenJDK is installed. And so on mine, I've got a link on the syllabus. It's for the OpenJDK. Bring up that for you here. Right, the OpenJDK, you're just going to go download a zip file. It's not a whole lot to it here. So if you haven't yet, you go to openjdk.java.net. You want to say download right in here. Oh, that was not it. Here we go. This link here, not the open source link. This JDK. So it looks like 17 is the latest version here. In Windows, you just download a zip here. I think I already have version 16. And then I put mine because it matches what we have on the virtual machines. in a folder on my C drive. I called it OpenDev. And in OpenDev, I have the JDK. So this is where mine is extracted to. So you can put it anywhere you want. You just need to know where it is. Hey, Uncle Bill, how you doing today? Thanks for hanging out with us on Twitch. So I just need this path for the OpenJDK. And then in the Catalina start bat file, it does a bunch of things to look for all of this JDK install stuff here. So it looks in a bunch of different places here. We don't have it anywhere there. It's no big deal. So we need to go, couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it, find it. This is fine. JDK run. So this is the error we're getting, right? We were getting that error. It wants you to find and set Java home. So all we need to do is we need to tell it, hey, this is where our JDK is. So when we look for this key name, right? I think it's just the key name here. I think that's all it is. Where'd it go? Oh no, it wasn't even in this one here. It was in, let's go back. Is it, this was Catalina start? That's what I was running. Yeah, set the Java home. Find it. Find the short one. Can't find the short one. Find open JDK. Fetch query. Find JRE64. It's not there. Find short. It's just a bunch of going to different locations here. Find open. There's not there. Okay, so we don't want the end error. That one's no good. To JDK run. In JDK, so we have to, oh, where's our, I think this is the wrong file, I'm sorry. This is not the one we wanted. Apache start? No, Tomcat. Let's look at the Tomcat directory. I think it's in here. And this Catalina start. This is what we need to edit here. I don't know why they have two of them here. So, fine. Searching, no key. We don't need any of that. Java home, here we go. So we're just going to set our Java home command to that, and then it'll run catalina.bat. Set Java home. Let's see. Yeah, let's get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff up here. So I'll send you the file in Discord. We just point it at our path here. I think we give that in quotes. Double check that. So say, hey, here's where Java is. I'm going to give that a start or a save. Let's see if that one starts for me now. Starting Catalina start. Should get the right message here now. Let's see what it does. So there's too many files with the same name. I'm sorry. I'm going to check the notes again. Come on, Catalina start. We have the Java home. Just thinking. Why are you thinking so hard, XAMPP? Oh, no, okay. I think we edited the wrong one. Tomcat logs, yeah, couldn't find it. All right, one more time. Let's try that other Catalina one then. XAMPP, Catalina start. This one. We're going to take out all this other junk here. JRE run. Yeah, Java home. There we go. We're going to do that same set Java home here. That ought to do it for us. Take out all this nonsense. JDK run. Set it here. We set Java home. Okay, we'll try that one. One of the two needs edits. Okay. Catalina start. We're getting there. Thankfully, you only have to do it one time once you install XAMPP. But if you have to reinstall XAMPP because someone screwed up, yeah, the file inside of Tomcat, the Catalina start inside of Tomcat. It gets particular. The start here is actually a little different than what NetBeans is going to do too. It's funny. There we go. Starting. Sweet. All right, and it started. All right, so now this one runs on port 8080 is the default for Tomcat. So it's a different port number. And if you go to admin, you should go to localhost 8080, and it should launch out the defaults here. So just got to find your path to your OpenJDK. We edit those files. If you get the starting page, it means you can actually get to Tomcat, which is fantastic. So we're in pretty good shape once we've got that. So I'll post that over in the Discord in a little bit here. And this one just kind of hangs out here. Then what we're going to do in NetBeans is we need to go and add a new server. What is it here? This one? I'm going to add a Tomcat server. So you have this project, so you have files, and you have services. Under servers, we're going to go add server, and we're going to add a Tomcat server here. We have to tell it, hey, where is the Tomcat server? We're going to go point it to it here in a second. So it's that XAMPP path for Tomcat. Tomcat. There it goes. So I'm going to grab that path in a second here. It'll go and do its plugins for it for NetBeans. Getting there. Come on, NetBeans. There we go. Give it a manager username and password. So in the Tomcat directory, in config, there's the server.xml. We're going to edit a couple steps, and we're going to find, is it in this one? No, it's not in this one. No, Tomcat users XML. I'm going to edit this one. And there's a couple roles that aren't used in here. I think it'll go and add it for us. Let's try it real quick. So it should add it. Well, it's going to say, hey, no, it doesn't like it. Gotta go add them in here. So we're going to uncomment out the roles. And we'll have a test and test here in a second. So add another role. You know, I feel like it used to do this automatically. Hang on, let me cancel that. Cancel. So there's a way to do it. Yeah, here, create user if it doesn't exist. There we go. So we're going to tell the server, let me just cancel that login, where it exists. Here for Tomcat. So just give it the Tomcat directory. Tomcat the same is already registered. What do you, oh, did it find it already? Is it this one? Looks like it found it for us already. Yeah, okay, so found Tomcat. Look at that. Very cool. Test and test. Let's say close. So now when we start a new project, instead of PHP, we want a Java web application. And I'm going to put this in the 2454 directory, 2454 fall 2021. This is JSP hello world. So next, we're picking our Apache or Tomcat server that we just created in the list here. And I say, okay, where do you want to go for your folder here? That's this JSP hello world. Right? That's the name of the project is the default for us here. It's great. We don't need any of the frameworks. I'm saying finish. There we go. We got our project. We have web pages with an index.html. There's also source packages, which we'll get to later once we actually start doing some other stuff. But we just want to make sure we can get to this page here. So now I'm going to change my browser again to Firefox. And when you run it, it's going to go do this whole deploy process out to Tomcat. So Tomcat has this whole fun structure here of web apps, where all the web applications go inside of here. NetBeans takes care of most of that magic for us, which is nice. We don't have to worry about most of that happening. Again, you can take the administration course if you want to look at how we actually administer our servers here. We're focused on just can we get them up and running development-wise. Did we launch it? Just thinking about it. Didn't add. All right. Did not like my server. I wanted that user. I wanted to avoid that user here. Let me just remove it. Remove the server. Try and add it one more time. Tomcat server. There we go. Okay, so we're going to tell it in cxamp Tomcat. Okay, and then we'll put in a create user if it doesn't exist. That's what we want here. Test and test. It just made it for me. No, come on. All right, I guess we can add the user ourselves, but that's annoying. Big. Tomcat users. Oh, it did add it. Yeah, it added test and test. Look at that. It added it for us. Why was I not taking it? So it modified that for us automatically here. It should have worked. Go back to our index page and try running again. Test and test. Test. All right, mine's broken. Why? It's got test here. Every time I reinstall, I'm sorry. Yeah. Manager script. Oh, there's no roles, is why. We need the roles. Need that role? User, yeah, manager script. It's the right one. Let's test and test. Tomcat does not like us right now. Let's see. Let me. Oh, the locked user tests. That looks ugly. Oh, I'm closing Tomcat down. Sorry? Yeah. Yeah, it's a bunch of steps. So once we get the steps up and running, we should be in better shape. And actually, it will NetBeans will start Tomcat itself, which is nice. You don't even have to go and start it manually from XAMPP, which is really cool. So like once it's been linked to the Tomcat server, it goes and starts it itself. Hey, all right, sweet, that worked now. I just had to restart it, I think. Sweet. So it puts everything out into all your cool directories. It puts everything out where it needs to go. NetBeans does a whole lot of work that doing it by hand is really obnoxious. So now we get our hello world, or right? Or to do write content, right? It's just a basic HTML page currently in the project, right? Write content here, sure. We've got our first page out, Tomcat's up and running. So we have to modify the Catalina start, and then we're going to go and add the Tomcat server here. And it should go through and add the user for you. So if it doesn't, there's a couple places to check in this Tomcat users folder. So I've got a list of things to check. So that's all we want to do tonight for Tomcat and JSP is make sure it starts and you can get an empty project up and running. That's the goal for tonight, to make sure everything is installed right with the OpenJDK, modifying those Catalina starts in XAMPP. So their Catalina start, add our define Java home here. Where do we do that? Did I not even? Oh, yeah, we just added the Java home, right, in our, yep. So I'll post those two files. So they look different. That's annoying. Let's see. So you said you just did the second one, Favanzo? Not the Catalina start here? Let me post that in Discord. Let's go. Here's mine. 2454. So in C, XAMPP, Catalina start.bat. We had all of this garbage. It's actually not a whole lot to it here. So that's the contents of that first one for Catalina start. Again, assuming you have whatever version, like you might need to change that line of the OpenJDK wherever you put it. It doesn't have to be in a folder called OpenDev, but if you put it there, it'll match here. So make sure the path is right for this one. The path is for that line. Okay, and then the next one inside of Tomcat, the Catalina start. This one was a little bit bigger. Oh no, that one's even smaller. So this was the, let me do the path for that one first. Tomcat, Catalina start, and for Catalina start, take out a bunch of the garbage again, and check for the set Java home. In for setting that one, once those two are in, then we can add the server. NetBeans, check the create user option for the manager. And we should be good to go with those two. Okay, so you just modified the one, Favanzo, inside? Yeah, if you modify the first one, then this start button works for the XAMPP control panel. If you don't modify the outer one, you can still start it from inside of NetBeans, but then your XAMPP doesn't connect with it. That's all. Okay, and then start your Java web project, and we're off to the races. Your web project. And make sure you can hit the index page. Awesome. Cool, that's all we got then. All right, if you folks are online and running into trouble, let me know. I'll be hanging out on Discord. We can do screen shares or throughout the week. We can get you set up. Just take that as a to-do for next week. Right? Just make sure it's up and running, because next week we'll pick up our first Java project, right? Once we finish up the PHP. So if you haven't got it up and running yet, it's going to take you a little longer to get started on the next project. All right, awesome. You got anyone who'd be fun to raid, Professor Perp? For anyone who's online? And we'll just hang out here in class. Yeah, bonus. You got a bonus point command? I love it. All sorts of fun stuff there. Oh, come on. Slide over better. Sweet. All right, I'm going to stop those. What was that one? That's all right. Let's see if anyone's around. Yeah, I mean, the first-person shooter games are fun. But let's see if there's anyone around the Knowledge Fellowship doing anything fun. Send you folks off online. I don't know what Burrow's Forge is. That looks like fun. Oh, Skylace is fun too. Doors and then Cable Damascus. I don't know what that is. You can check that out. Makers and Crafting? Yeah, sounds like fun. Head over that way. Yeah, you folks have a good night. I'll see you around. Let me know if you need anything and get you set up and running. That Monster is actually like partnered with Apex. That's funny. All right. That looks neat, whatever he's doing.